Okay, this is the bottom of Lamed Aleph Lamed Beis, I think. Let's see, the next page is Lamed Beis. Yeah, so the bottom of Lamed Aleph Lamed Beis. And the issue is, as we said, the whole parak is talking about onus and mafata, rape and seduction, that there's a penalty, a knas. And Mishnah had said that 5 lines from the bottom, so to talk about chayve krisos, even if somebody would have been onus and mafata, chayve krisos, also our Mishnah says that there's a knas, there is a penalty. The Gemara did talk about in the past couple of pages that some argue, some say that it's only talking about a woman who is mutter to him, and even those that say chayve lav and yes included, but chayve krisos are not. We had those issues, those argue in the Mishnah. And we had Choni ben Akana also argues because he holds that chayve krisos is kamle b'drabimine, and our Mishnah doesn't hold like that. But the Gemara tonight, the Gemara is going to come with another issue why there's a problem. How could it be that someone that's chayv kares would also have to pay the knas? And today's sugya is going to be called ein loka mishalim, which is the beginning of the. It's quoted on the top of the next page. It says kaim b'lan ein loka mishalim, that there's a person for the same avera is not going to get both malchus and also have to pay. And here the Gemara is going to ask that there is malchus for these averas that are chayv kares, if there were edim that warned him that this is punishable by kares and it's chayv malchus, and he said anyway I'm going to do it. So then they bring him to Bezdin and there's chayv malchus. And based on that, the Gemara is going to say, since we know klal ein loka mishalem, that he doesn't get 2 punishments for the same avera, it seems that this is not under the same category as kamle b'drabimine, which I didn't look into why it's not the same klal, it's not the same yisod. It is going to be a different pasuk, altogether different subject. Besides the subject we had about kamle b'drabimine, when there was a chiv misa that yesh ason, then you don't pay. Imesh anoshi anesh over there by the person who pushed a pregnant woman and there was a miscarriage. So over there said if she dies, so then there's no monetary payment. That's called kamle b'drabimine. Here we're talking about a different subject called ein loka mishalim, that if there's malchus and a payment, so he only gets one of them. So this is I don't know enough yet to know why it's a different yesod, but that's what comes out here also, that if there's one avera that has 2 punishments, maybe that's the point of it, that it's one avera, the 2 over there, kamle b'drabimine, there was even 2 different things that came simultaneously, like Shabbos and damage. Here it's one avera that has 2 punishments, so I guess that's the difference. That here's a new yesod that the punishment determined only one of the 2. So that's an overview of what the Gemara is going to talk about. Reminu, a question from a brisa, Mishnah. Again, it's Mishnah. This is the beginning of in Makkas. This is the parak called Ein Halokin. The following is a list of those people that are chayiv lashes. Abal achosav, ala chosabiv, ala chosimov, ala chosishtav, ala eshesachev, ala eshesachiyav, ala nida. All of the chayiv increases that we know. If somebody has relations with a sister, a father's sister, a mother's sister, a wife's sister, a brother's wife, and a father's brother's wife. We call a couple of them aunts and sisters-in-law, and all these are chayiv kares. If he has a relations with them, and if they were aiding him, warning him not to do it, then he's also chayiv malchus. Also alanida, even a woman, even his own wife was a nida. So there's a chayiv kares to have relations, and if he was warned not to have relations and he did it anyway, so then he'd be chayiv malchus. What does the Gemara want with that? So does malchus. Our Mishnah says that there's a knas for these people that he relations with, their relations of chana. And the knas said of malchus. And the kash is with the next Rashi right away tells us, Rashi at the bottom of the page, he tells us Kaimalan de Lokum Mishalim. Rashi gives us a little head start what it's going to say later on. It says that when a person's chayiv malchus, they should give him lashes according to his wickedness. And we learn out bishaso singular, bishaso his rasha, which means not rishiiyos, only his single wickedness, not if he has a lot of wickednesses. You only obligate him for one of his evil and not 2 evils. Means you don't give him 2 punishments, it seems for the same thing. And everyone agrees to this yisod that there's not going to be malchus and mammon. That's the opening statement of our Gemara, ein loka mishalem, and therefore the Gemara's kash is, how could he say that he's chayiv a penalty, a knas, a monetary penalty, if he's also going to be chayiv malchus? Now, of course, malchus is only when he was warned by Adam. It's possible to have done this whole rape and seduction without any edim and warning also. But the Gemara is assuming that if there was also Edim and Hasra, they warned him, and he's going to be Chayiv Malkus. Still, the Mishnah says Knas. That's the Gemara's kasha that these two things go together. It's possible to say that it's Chayiv Malkus and also money. It can't be Ein Lokum Mishalim. So the Gemara is going to have two main answers that are arguing on each other. There's going to be Ula, and then just to zoom out a second, there's Ula over here on the beginning of the page, and Amud Beis, to also highlight it in yellow, is going to be Rabbi Yochanan, and there's going to be a Machlokes Rabbi Yochanan and Ula, just to get the map of what's going to happen. Everyone holds Ein Lokum Mishalim. Everybody holds that there's not two punishments, both Malkus and Malkus means lashes, both lashes and payment. Everybody holds there's not going to be both of them. But Ula, like the Gemara says, he holds that when there's both of them, so then he only pays Momen Mishalim, Malkus Milka Lo Lucky. He's only going to have the payment, and he's not going to be Chayiv Malkus, and he's going to answer the question in his way. And Rabbi Yochanan is the opposite. Rabbi Yochanan says, when both of these things fall on him together, that one avera that should be chayiv, two punishments, money and malchus, so then he's just going to get lashes and he's not going to be chayiv mammon. So based on these two different outlooks, the Gemara is going to have to say different way to answer the kasha. So we're first starting with Ula's teretz. So the kasha was, how could it be that he's chayiv malchus, he's chayiv money if he's also if he's going to be chayiv malchus? So the simple answer you might say was that, like Rashi right away tells us, that Rashi doesn't right away tell us, but soon he's going to say that he didn't want to say a simple terrorist. And our Mishnah is talking about that there was no warning. That would have been a simple way to start. It doesn't say in our Mishnah that they warned him and he's getting malchus. It just says he's chayiv a penalty. Maybe it's talking about there was no edim, there was no warning. He's not chayiv malchus, so that's why he has to pay. But Ula doesn't say that because he holds that even if there would be a warning and there would be malchus, still he would not get malchus. Always would be only a payment. And therefore, the Gemara has in order to answer the kasha, he has to find a case that the Mishnah and Makis that says that there's malchus, there must be a case that there's no money. Again, Ein Lokum Mishalim. So which one? Yes, he doesn't get both punishments, only one. Ula's of the opinion that he only, when both of these come, he's only chayiv to pay. There's not going to be malchus. So our Mishnah is good. Our Mishnah is that he pays. But the kasha is, according to Ula's outlook, the kasha is the Mishnah Malchus doesn't make sense. When is there going to be malchus? There never should be malchus. It always should be knas. If there's a monetary payment, so then there's no malchus. So he is going to have to find that the Mishnah Malchus is talking about a case where there's no knas. That's what he's going to do. He's going to go to say this that the case in our Mishnah that says that there's a payment, that's good. There's always a payment. The Mishnah Malchus that said that there's malchus is going to be a case where there's no payment, and therefore there's going to be malchus. Otherwise, only would have to make the payment, the knas, and not the malchus. Amar Ula lo kasha kan b'chosa nara kan b'chosa bogeres. That our Mishnah that says the knas and there's the payment is talking about that it's a chosa nara, like we said, that one of the conditions in order to be chayiv the knas is only if it's a nara, basula, a shelo, or a rasa. She has to be a nara. She has to be within 12 and 12 and a half. But if she would taka be bogeres, then there's no din knas. That's going to be the case of malchus. Means in our Mishnah there's not going to be malchus because it's only a payment. The case over there that there's going to be a malchus is only possible in a case where there's no payment. What's the case where there's no payment? When she's a bogeres, when she's already 12 and a half or older. So then there's no knas. So therefore, it's possible to be chayiv malchus. The Gemara still has to clear it away because even a bogeres also there are other payments besides the knas of 50 shkal and 50 pieces of silver. A host of bogeres nami or ika boshes or pagam. There are other kinds of payments also. When a person rapes, he has to pay for the shame that he caused. He has to pay for the damage that he caused because she's worth less. If always the nezek is evaluated how much a person would be worth on the slave market, that's also was downgraded because she was now raped. So what's going to be the case that there's going to be a chiyuv malchus, even if she's a bogeres and there's no malchus, there's still going to be money to pay because of these damages that he caused, the shame and damage. The answer is b'shota. It's talking about the girl was a shota, and therefore there's no boshe. She doesn't have shame. And also Rashi says she's not the worth, her worth on the market doesn't go down. It probably is not worth anything in the beginning to be sold as a slave. So only in a case, only in a case where there's no monetary payment, not for knas, not for boshes, not for pagam, then there's going to be malchus, or else there's no malchus, only going to be a payment. But tzara, there's also pain, and even though shota also has pain, and that's also another payment that has to be done. So where's going to be the case of malchus? There's always going to be a payment. The answer is b'mafuta. If she was seduced, you're right. In the case of an onus, it's not going to be because there was a pain. But by mafuta, when there's seduction, then there's no pain. The pain is only when he rapes against her will. So then there's going to be a pain. But when she was seduced and she agreed to it, so then there's no pain. But if there would be a monetary payment, so then there would be no malchus. Now the Gemara says once we got into mafuta already, he is somewhere mafuta. What's that? Now the Gemara says that once you say this teres about a mafuta, so then we could say answer that the case of Seches Malchus, where it says that there is malchus. How is it possible to be malchus? If there's going to be a payment, monetary payment, then there's no malchus, because the case is the Yisoma Mafuta. Yisoma, Rashi says that means that her father died, then the payment goes to her. We'll see more about this probably by the dinam of Knas, that by Yisoma, the money goes to her. Otherwise, it goes to her father. But if she's a Yisoma, so then it goes to her. And if she was a Mafuta, she was seduced. So she was mochel, means if the girl herself is seduced, I mean, she agrees to it, so she's mochel any kind of a payment that's coming to her. If she's not a Yisoma, then the father has the time and says, what did you do? You seduced my daughter. But if she's a Yisoma, so then the money would go to her. And since she was the one who was seduced, so she was mochel. In short, what did the Gemara do? It cleared all the money cases. There's the case. It's only going to be 5 malchus in the case where there's no monetary payment, and that's how to answer the Mishnah in Malchus. Again, the kasha was ein loka mishalim. How could it be that there's going to be a chiyuv malchus, as the Gemara says right away? Alma kasava ula kalecha dika mamon malchus mamonim mishalim nunkalolaki. Ula understands when we say ein loka mishalim that you don't have both punishments for one avera. That which one do you pick? If there's someone who's high both malchus and payment, which one do we say? Ula would say only to pay, no malchus. So our Mishnah is good, that the Mishnah says it's chayv knas, they're very good, the chayv knas. But the Mishnah in malchus that says this is malchus, how could there ever be malchus? Whenever there's going to be a monetary payment, there's no malchus. So he has to find the case, there's no payment. What's the case? So the first one talks about there's no knas of onus mafata because she was a bogeres, and boshus bagam, if she's a shotes, so there's no boshus bagam. And there's why is there no tsar? Because there was a mafuta, she was seduced, there is no pain. But clearing, no case of no money. It also says at the end, there was one answer that could take care of everything. Yisoma mafuta, if she was without a father and the money payment goes to her, all these payments would go to her. And she was seduced, so she agreed to it, and then there's no payment. In short, what did the Gemara say? You're right that if there'd be a malchus, if there'd be a monetary payment, there'd be no malchus. The only case where there's going to be malchus when there's no payment, and figure out a case where there's no payment. That was what Ula held, and that's why in order to answer the kasha, he had to say that Mishnah and Malchus is talking about where there's no payment. Now, before the Gemara goes on to Ahmad Beis, we're going to be Rabbi Yochanan. So the Gemara wants to know the source. Where does Ula get it from? Like it's a chiddush. Means we do know. Rashi told us that it says Kedei Rishaso. Rashi in the bottom of the previous page, it told us that since it says Kedei Rishaso, we learn that there's only one payment, one punishment. But for the avera that was done, but the question is which one, malchus or mammon? So and Ula says it's the money. Only you pay money, you don't get malchus. How does he know that? And that's what the Gemara is going to do for the rest of the page here, rest of this side of the page, to figure out how does Ula know, and even about beginning of the top of the second page, how does Ula know this? How does Ula know? So the Gemara starts. Now from the din when someone's mazik. Every time somebody damages a friend, he hits him. So there should be payment for the damage that he caused, but there's also should be malchus because he didn't have avera of hitting. It says you're not supposed to hit. So just like we find when someone hits, and the Gemara doesn't yet tell us how you know that. Who says maybe when somebody hits, he's just supposed to get malchus and he's not supposed to pay for the damages. But we'll find that out on the Ahmad Beis already. We'll talk about that. But since that's a given, that when someone hits, he damages. So there's both over there a reason to pay money and there's a reason to get malchus. And the din is he only pays. So that's going to be the source to learn out. Whenever there's going to be two punishments for avera, for the same avera, malchus and money, it's only money is paid. Whenever there's going to be two punishments, money and malchus, so that's Ula's source to say that he should pay and there's no malchus. But the Gemara has difficulty with that. It could be that chova b'chavera, damaging a friend, wounding a friend, a fellow man, maybe that's worse because you find that he has chayv many payments. He's five things. Nezek, tzar, ripu, sheves, boshes. We had all of them just listed on top of the page. So for that, there's a lot of payments. Maybe that's very chamor. That's when we say he has to pay. You see, the payment is very important over there. But the other kind of things, let's say by the knas here, we're saying that maybe a knas alone is only a payment against malchus. Maybe malchus maybe you should pay. Maybe you should get malchus. Now, right, the Gemara a few times, I just put parentheses a couple of times going through the Gemara. The Gemara is not sure. What would we say? I'm not sure what we would say. If someone would have a choice of malchus, getting lashes, or paying money, which one is the easier punishment? Which one is the more difficult one? The Gemara itself doesn't take sides. What would we say? Maybe it depends.
That's all.
Depends how much money.
Depends how much money.
Depends how much money. Depends how much money. So
You were saying that if he gets Malchus and not has to pay, then it seems like Malchus, in terms of the other principle, it seems like that would be stronger.
how do you know? Maybe it's a kula. I don't know. We didn't take sides. You just said that you're assuming it's because it's more strong. Maybe it's because it's lenient. Right?
From Kamimine.
What's that?
Kamimine, however you say it. Kamimine, Rabimine.
Oh, so Kamle B'Rabine. So Kamle B'Rabine is talking about Misa. As far as we saw, so about death penalty, and
Well,
something.
isn't death stronger than the other things?
Yeah, death is surely a bigger punishment. Here, talking about money and Malchus.
That is stronger, and so you only do the stronger one. So here too, maybe Malchus is stronger, no matter how much.
I don't know well, but I don't know clearly. But it seems that principle of Kamle B'Rabine talks about death. So then that's not our principle over here. This seems to be a different principle. So I don't know. It seems to be that's only talking about death, and by death, surely the death penalty is going to cover the other smaller punishments. We're not going to give him the smaller one. We're giving him the death penalty. But over here, that's talking about lashes and money. The Gemara is not sure itself which one is considered a bigger severity, which one is severe, which one is lenient. So each time the Gemara is going to always cover both sides. First, the Gemara said if you say that making him pay is considered a severe, being more stringent on him, so then it wouldn't be a good source, good enough source to learn out from Chobel, wounding a fellow man, because maybe over there that he see the payments are very hard. We give him 5 payments to pay. That's why over there they said that if that overrides the Malchus, and he's going to pay and not going to get away with the Malchus. But other places you don't know. But the Gemara also entertains the other possibility. The Imam Lakula, if it's a leniency to make him pay and not to get Malchus, he's happy with that. He'd rather pay than to get Malchus. And then also you can learn out from Chovel. There's not another side of the coin that maybe the Isser to wound somebody is not as stringent as other kinds of Malchus. Like here we're talking about the Malchus of because he wounds somebody. They're not better to wound somebody. But the Mechlolim Bezdin means sometimes you see that we waive the Isser of wounding somebody. That means Bezdin has the right to hurt somebody. Bezdin's a lot of give somebody Malchus. Bezdin's a lot of wound. So Torah says that this Isser of wounding doesn't apply always. So since you see that it's not across the board prohibited, so that shows that there's some leniency to it. Maybe only over there the Torah was lenient on him that he only has to pay, he doesn't get Malchus. But by an Avera that the Torah, you don't never see that the Torah ever waived it. Like let's say in our case, onus umafata, there's never a time that the Torah permits onus umafata. There's no such thing as onus umafata that's permissible to anybody. So maybe over there the Torah is going to be stringent, and over there it'll say that he should get Malchus. Maybe don't be lenient on him. So therefore the Gemara is so far saying that the source to learn out Ula's din, that when you have Mammon and Malchus, he has to pay money. I shouldn't say he has to pay money. That's not, I'm taking sides already. But the one that we give him is to pay money and not the Malchus. The Gemara says it wouldn't be a good enough source from Chovel. It's true, we agree with you. The Chovel B'Chaver, when somebody wounds somebody, the punishment that we obligate him is going to be the payment. That's true. But it's not enough source to learn out other places from there, either Lakula or Lachumra, whichever way it's going to be, it wouldn't be enough of a source. So we're still looking for a source for Ula. How do you know always whenever there's going to be money and Malchus coming together, that the one that we activate is only the payment and not the Malchus? So the Gemara is another try. El Gamar, Edom Zoma means that if Edom came and they said to testify against somebody, and let's say a case money, they say it's Chayiv money, he has to pay somebody whatever, $1,000, and then it comes out that those Edom were proven that they were false Edom and that they weren't even there. They weren't even at the scene of the crime. They say that they saw him steal or borrow and at a certain time and place, and then other Edom come and say that time and place you weren't even there. So Allah is you punish them with the punishment that they wanted, whatever they wanted to inflict on somebody else, we do to them. And over there, there's also, it should be a Chayiv Malchus because they did false testimony. Every time they did false testimony, it should be Chayiv Malchus. So they incurred upon themselves 2 penalties, Malchus and Mammon. What do we do to them? Again, the Gemara is taken as a given. The Gemara doesn't tell us yet how it knows, but that's a given. Edom Zom, and also that we only make him pay the money and there's no Malchus. So that also is similar to Chobel. Both of them, the Gemara knows for a fact that there's a payment, the money, and not the Malchus. So the Gemara is trying, let's learn out from there. Of course, just like you see over there, when both of them incurs both penalties, so we only activate the Malchus. So any place like that, unless the case about Chayiv Krisis, that also is Chayiv Knas. So Ula would say that there's only money, only make him pay the Knas, and or whatever it is, Boshes, Pagam, whatever it might be, and there's no Malchus. But more again, objects to that source, we might find the severity by Edom Zoman that that's the reason why you make him pay money, because it's more severe. And Edom Zoman is very severe because you see that we punish them even though they were not warned. Usually by all Averis, only punish somebody if he was warned. But here, Edom Zoman, you don't warn them. They say the testimony. And if you find out that they the Edom Zoman, we don't tell them if your Edis is going to be false. If you're saying false Edis, you should know that you're going to have to pay, or you'll be punished with the punishment of Malchus, whatever. We don't say they're punishable without any warning. That's considered a severity that you have by Edom Zoman that you don't have by other Averis. And that the Gemara is asking. So even if it's true, now we're taking the side that to pay money is more chamor than to get Malchus. So maybe only over there do you find the severity because it's very severe. But other Averis that it's not so severe, you always need Hasra. So maybe over there we're not going to make it so severe to pay them money instead of the Malchus. Maybe we'll let them get away with Malchus. Again, once again, the Gemara inserts the other possibility, take the other side of the coin, who, if you hold that it's easier to pay money than to get Malchus, so I also could show that there's a leniency by Edom Zoman that doesn't apply to other Averis, and therefore you won't be able to learn from there that he can get away with the money. Shekain lo asu maisa, that over there, there's more lenient over there. The leniency is that they didn't do an act. The Avera that Edom Zoman did was without doing an act. It's only with speech alone. They testified. Their testimony would have made them chayiv, but they didn't do an act. It's not like somebody that actually, let's say, lifted a hand against somebody, or the case that he raped somebody. These cases that he didn't act. So maybe even if the Torah allows Edom Zoman to get away with money or not getting Malchus, is because it's not such a severe Avera because they didn't do an act. But when they would have done an act, maybe over there we're going to say that they should be chayiv Malchus. So how does Ula know his din that when there's Momen and Malchus, he pays and there's no Malchus? So I want to look out still a source for Ula. So the Gemara tries both of them together. We have two sources already. One was from wounding a fellow man, one was from Edom Zoman, and each one alone wasn't enough. Now the Gemara says, okay, so let's do both of them together. We'll use a Tzad Hashem, the Tzad Hashem, the common denominator. We can learn from both of them together, because even though one has a chumrah, but the other one doesn't. One has a kula, the other one doesn't. So we can learn out from the common denominator of both of them. If we see two places the Torah says that he pays money, when he incurs upon himself money and Malchus, we say to pay the money, so we can learn out other places also. But both these cases, two times, the Torah says when he incurs both penalties, we tell him to pay money. So to any place, whatever comes on that in the Torah that he incurs two penalties, he only should pay money. And that'll be the source of Ula. Still the Gemara is not happy. That each one has its particular chumrah. As we said that the case of Chovah B'Chaveru is more chumrah because it has five payments to pay, and Edom Zoman has a chumrah because it needs hasra. So even though each one has a different kind of a chumrah, but both of them are chumrah. But maybe other cases that don't have either one of these chumras, maybe over there it doesn't apply, and we'll say over there you should be chayiv Malchus. And again, the Gemara inserts other possibility. If you want to say that to pay money is considered a leniency instead of getting Malchus, we also can say that both of these cases is because they're both more lenient. As we said that by the case of wounding, maybe it's more lenient because of the Bezdin is a lot, and Edom Zoman maybe it's a leniency because they didn't do a Maisa, but other Averis that don't have a Tzad Kula, maybe over there we'll say that he should get Malchus. So the Gemara is still looking for a source for Ula. And here it is on Amud Beis, top of the page. Ela Ula, Tachas Gamar. The source of Ula to say when you have payment of money and Malchus that he just pays money is learned out from Gzeira Shava. Ela Ula Tachas Gamar. There's a Gzeira Shava to learn out that the punishment is going to be money and not the Malchus. Ksiv Hacha Tachas Hashemina, Ksiv Hasam Ayin Tachas Ayin. Ma Hasam Mamona Mishalim Mukalolaki Avkalecha Dika Mamona Malchus Mamona Mishalim Mukalolaki. This is Gzeira Shava. What's Gzeira Shava? Tachas Hashemina. That's talking about onus when somebody rapes, so he has to pay because he afflicted her. I think that's what it's talking about. I think what's the pasuk? That's the pasuk of Tachas Hashemina, I think. And the other pasuk is Ayin Tachas Ayin, that is talking about by Ayin Tachas Ayin is a regular mazik. So just like over there it says to pay money, Ayin Tachas Ayin means that it should pay for the value of the eye, not the actual eye. They pay money and no malchus. So nothing to do with svara that they could talk about more chomo, more kal. Once exer shava, so then there's no more source to talk about. That's the source of Ula that says that when there's money and malchus, the punishment is money. Adkan Ula. All this was Ula. Again, the kasha was that our Mishnah says that there's a knas. The Mishnah in Makis says that there's malchus. And Ula understood that when you have both of these, it's only going to be money. So our Mishnah was good, but the Mishnah Makis had to have an explanation. And he cleared the path by saying the Mishnah Makis is talking about there's chayiv malchus only in the case where there's no monetary payment. There's no knas, there's no bolshis, there's no pagam, there's no tsar. You have to get a case where there's no money at all. When there's no money, then it's going to be chayiv malchus. But if there's any kind of monetary payment, it's not going to be malchus. All that was Ula. Rabbi Yochanan looks at it altogether different. Rabbi Yochanan Amar, afilu tema choso nara, kan shisubo, kan shelo hisrubo. He goes simple. Rabbi Yochanan says, let's just do one more line. Al maksav Rabbi Yochanan, kalecha dika mamanu malchus visrube, milka lucky, mamanu lo mishalim. Rabbi Yochanan takes the other side. Rabbi Yochanan says that it's true. I agree to the yisod that you can't get both punishments, not malchus and money. Which one do you get? Malchus, only malchus. So therefore, the Mishnah Malchus is good. The Mishnah Malchus says malchus, that's good. Even if there's going to be a knas to pay, there's no knas, because if he's chayiv malchus, there's not going to be money. When is there malchus? Only if he got warned. But if he didn't get warned, so then there's no malchus. That's going to be the pshat in our Mishnah. Our Mishnah that says that this monetary payment is only in the case where there was no warning for malchus, so he's not going to get lashes. That's what he has to pay. But if he was warned and he did it right away, and he said, "I'm doing it anyway," and he's chayiv lashes, so then there's not going to be a monetary payment. That's very simple. He doesn't have the difficulty that Ula had, but it's all based on the principle that he holds when there's two punishments, then it's only malchus and not money. So he can say answers a simple answer that Amish is talking about, that there was no warning, so there's no malchus, that's when he pays. But otherwise, if there was going to be a warning and there's malchus, then there's no payment. Now the Gemara wants to know, where does Rabbi Yochanan get it from? We finished Ula. Ula we know because he has a Gezer Shav. How does Rabbi Yochanan? This is very short. How does he know this? Which is all Rashi told us till now, that everybody agreed to this. The pasuk says when you give lashes, you should give lashes for his wickedness, and it's mashma singular, only one wickedness, and you don't give him two punishments. That Ula also agreed, but he has one more line. Over there it says in the pasuk, the next pasuk says, give him lashes. So of course that's a drash, and the pasuk pshat is just telling you that when someone is chayiv malchus, give him malchus. 40 lashes, the 39. But the drash is saying with the smirchus over here, the proximity of the two drashes, Kedei also means only one, not two. If there's money and malchus, only one punishment. And then it goes on to talk about malchus. That's a drasha to say that that's the punishment you give him. Even when he has two incurs two penalties, one is going to be malchus and money, you only give lashes and you don't charge him the monetary fine or payment. And that's machlok Rabbi Yochanan and Rish Lakish, and the Gemara is happy. But the Gemara is the kasha because we said already two things, that everyone agreed that there's going to be a monetary payment. It means Rabbi Yochanan that says that when you have both of these punishments, so he only gets lashes and no payment, he has to explain how come chovel b'chaveiro and also Edom Zomin over there's only going to be a payment. That doesn't fit with Rabbi Yochanan's cloud. Rabbi Yochanan says if there are two penalties, he should only get malchus. So every time somebody wounds a fellow man, and he was damaged, and but the Bezdin should give malchus to the one who damaged, and it shouldn't be any payment. The person could be the one who the victim would like the payment. He wants the lashes also, but he's going to lose his money. The one is asking every time somebody damages somebody, the damager should get lashes and no payment. According to Rabbi Yochanan, according to Ula, it's good. Ula says that was almost his source. He tried to learn it out from there, from Chovel, from Edom Zomin. It didn't work. At the end, he had to learn out from Gezer Shava. But the halacha fits. The halacha fits that there's only money. But according to Rabbi Yochanan, that says when there's two punishments, so then it's malchus. So the kasha is how come chovel b'chaveiro? How come Edom Zomin? How come over there there's money? That's the more kasha. How come Rabbi Yochanan will agree that when there's going to be two punishments by chovel, that he has to get over there, he does pay, and he doesn't get malchus? Now, first you have to prove that. Maybe not. How do you know? Maybe the truth is going to be if somebody damages, that he has to pay is only when he didn't get warned about it. So there's no malchus. But if he was warned about it and there's malchus, maybe there's no payment. So the Gemara says, no, that's not true. Everybody agrees. That's Rabbi Yochanan himself. If somebody damaged somebody, he's hit him, and it was less than a pruta worth. A pruta, whatever, how much that is, about half a shekel, whatever it might be, less. So whatever, it's not considered money. Maybe it's, I forgot how many, agarot, 20 agarot, whatever, it changes with the times. But whatever it is, if somebody would have hit with a value less than a Shava Pruta, so there's no payment. There's no punishment. Less than a Shava Pruta is not worth money. So he doesn't pay, he gets lashes. And that if not, the Gemara is going to prove that a regular Hakar that does have a Shava Pruta, then he pays, and he doesn't get Malchus. That's the Gemara's explanation. Hey, Chidam, what's the case we're talking about? If there was no warning, he's not Chayiv Malchus. I'm like, it can't be. We're talking about that there was a warning. El Pshita, we're talking about that there was warned the time of the last Shava Pruta, only because no Shava Pruta, that's why there's no payment, that's why it's Chayiv Malchus. But if it would have been a damage which is worth Pruta's worth, so then it's mashma he's going to pay, he's not going to get a Malchus. So the question comes back, everybody agrees that when there's Chobel, when somebody damaged a fellow man, so then he does have to pay the payment, not the Malchus. And the Kash is, if Yochanan holds, that when there's both penalties, he gets Malchus. So how come Chobel B'Chavero has to pay money and doesn't get Malchus? The Gemara answers, and the Gemara also wants to know about Edom Zoman also. It's also going to be a kasha. And the Gemara says, just like Edom Zoman, we know also money. Kedam Rabbi Lo, Beferish Rib Satorah, Edom Zoman, Lo Tashlumen. And Nachanami, Beferish Rib Satorah, Chol B'Chaver, Lo Tashlumen. The Gemara is going to bring a Beferish Pasuk. These two exceptions are going to be explicit drushes to learn out that here the payment is money, even though usually when there's going to be Momen and Malchus, it's only going to be Malchus according to Rabbi Yochanan and not money. But these two are exceptions. Everybody agrees that by wounding somebody, he pays, even if he was warned, and there should be a Malchus. No, we're going to pay. He should pay money and not Malchus, and also by them Zoman. Even though there's a punishment of Losana B'Achoy Shakir that they lied and they should be punishable by Malchus, since there's also money, there's only going to be money payment and not Malchus. And the Gemara is being a drasha of each one of them. Rabbi Lo said it about Edom Zoman, and we're going to learn out also to Chovel B'Chaveru. Hey, Chetma Rabbi Lo. Where Rabbi Lo? What was his drasha about Edom Zoman? Ferish Pasuk. To learn out that his punishment is only the payment. The following Mishnah, I guess. Two Eidim come and they said we testify against so and so that he owes his fellow man 200 zuz, and then Nimsu Zomin, and then they were found to be Eidim Zomin. Other Eidim came and said, "How could you testify? You weren't even there at that time." So Lokan Mishalmin, this Rav Meir. The Shlosh Shema Mavil Lidei Malchus Mavil Lidei Tashlumin Rav Meir. Meir says that this case they get both punishments because it's two different averas. He says only if it's one avera that incurs two punishments. But here's two different averas. One is going to be Losana, the other one is going to be what does it say? Rav Meir holds in this case they get both punishments. That's not our subject right now. That they pay and it doesn't get Malchus, even though they did avera that they have to pay money. They get the same punishment that they wanted to incur with their false testimony, which was they wanted them to pay 200 zuz. Also, they testified falsely, which is punishable by Malchus. The Rabbanan say they pay and they don't get Malchus. And that the Gemara says maybe it should be the opposite. The name we call the Loka in Mishalim, which would be similar to Rabbi Yochanan. Rabbi Yochanan would say the Malchus and no payment. How come here the Loka is to pay? There's a Ferish Pasuk. That's what we're looking for. What is that? Where does the Torah say so? Mechti, because let's analyze. One pasuk says that you should do to these Edom Zoman the same way that they scheme to do to their brother. Very nice. We know from that whenever they wanted to do, we do to him. But then it says yad biyad. It says it goes on to say it specifies a hand for a hand. It means if they wanted to do something to his hand, you do it to him, and that's extra pasuk. Yad biyad damali. The answer is something which is hand done over from hand to hand. That's another way of saying money. The fact it's a drush. Of course, it's a drush, not the pashup shot. The drush is going to be that what do we make him? What do we do to him? Money. That yad biyad, something which is handed over hand to hand. So even though it should be chayiv malchus also, but the thing the punishment we do give him is going to be something which is handed over from hand to hand, which is money. That's the drasha to say that Edom Zoman, the punishment is money, even according to and here also, just to point out, Ula given. Yes, you see that. Yes, in the beginning of the page. Yes, and that was the drasha. That was the source, and Edom Zoman, everyone took it as a given. This seems to be the givens that the Gemara knows that Edom Zoman, surely the punishment is money and not the malchus. And the Gemara now says, Chovel B'Chaver Nami. There's going to be a drasha to learn out Chovel that wounding a friend also, that the punishment is going to be a monetary payment and not the malchus. Mechdi, what's the drasha? Ksiv, Kasha, so Kenya Salo. This is a different person, not by Edom Zoman, by damages. And it says, I think it's Achra Kedoshim, I forgot which parsha it is. A second, I have it right here. The end of Parshas Emo. Over there it says, that about a case of a Makallel, somebody cursed and they stoned him. Over there it says the lachas of mazik, and over there it says somebody damaged, gives a blemish to a fellow man, the same way he did, so should be done to him. And if we had, that means money also. But it says Kenny no same bo. There's not a pasuk. It says Kenny also, and it also says Kenny no same bo. Two psukim. Why does it have to say two psukim for? Something which is called giving. What is that? My new moment that he should pay money. So we don't give him lashes. We don't do the punishment that he wanted, what he did to somebody else. We don't damage him the way he damaged, and we don't give him alkis. We give money. Money or moment. That's the end of the Gemara. That's the end of today's daf. And we learned out, just to sum it up, we learned out everybody holds by Edom Zoman and by Chol B'Chavera, the punishment is only going to be money because these drushes over here that it says Yad B'Yad by Edom Zoman, and it says by damaging, it says Kenya Nasin Bo. Those are two givens. Everybody agrees to that. The question is, other places, when somebody incurs two penalties at the same Avera, which one do we give? If it's Malchus and money, which one do we give? So we have Machlokis. Ula says you learn out from Tachas. You learn out it's going to be money, only the money, not the Malchus. The Yochanan learns from the end of the pasuk that it says Kedei Rishaso Abam Yakenu, that it's only the and the two different shitas, these two different things are going to have a different way of approaching the contradiction from our Mishnah to the Mishnah and Malchus. Our Mishnah says that by Chayvi Krisus, if somebody raped or seduced Chayvi Krisus, that is Knas. The Mishnah Malchus says that there's Malchus for these things of Chayvi Krisus. How do you reconcile it? The point of Yochanan is easy. The Mishnah, our Mishnah is talking about that there's no Malchus. The case where they didn't warn him, so there's no Malchus. If there's no Malchus, there's a payment. If there is Malchus, then there's no payment. Ula is the opposite. Always it should be only money, and even if there is Malchus, there should still be only money. He has to say the case of the Malchus is going to be when there's no money. What's the case that there's no money? That there's no Knas because it's a Vogeras, and there's no Bosh Savagam because it's a Shota, and there's no Tsar because it's a Mafuta. Or you could say Yisoma Mafuta, and she was Mochel everything. That's why there's no payment. When there's no payment, then there's going to be Malchus. Yashikoach, everybody. Thank you.
Where's the last? Where we finished the next to the last line? Where did we get to?
Let's put it on again. One sec. I closed it already. Next to the last line. What is that? Right. The bottom line. That's up to the bottom line. Rabbi Yochanan my time lo makula. Go up to the bottom line.
Okay. Thanks.
Yashiko, thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Very special. Yeah.
He was listening on the telephone to you.
Thank you.
I was on at home and then I decided that I should come join you. That's why.
Much appreciated. But if your family needs you, thank you. Thank you. Everybody. I didn't think that I was going to make this because